Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Wednesday press conference after our Tuesday City Council meetings. The reason we have these each time is to give some follow-up information on things that were acted upon at the City Council meeting, and also for me to be able to give some reminders of some things that are going on in the community. I want to welcome to the press conference members of the AARP Lowndes County branch. They're here at the press conference today, and we're also going to meet afterwards and discuss some ADA compliance issues, and they're just kind of getting a look at how we do things here at City Hall, so I appreciate them being in attendance today. There are a couple things I wanted to discuss with the citizens today. I want to go over some of the things that we talked about last night. First of all, I want to say again thank you to everyone who played a part in the successful activities that we had over the weekend, the fireworks on the water and the Southside Blues Festival. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend both events, and I thought they were both quite successful. There's a lot of hard work that goes into those, planning those types of events, but I think they're important for our city and our tourism in the area. So thanks again to everybody who worked on that, who volunteered, and who made contributions towards that. We also last night recognized the class of 1972 and their support of the city since graduation. This was, desegregation occurred in the city during the summer of 1970. So the class of 72 was the second class to graduate from an integrated school here in Columbus. On the 50th anniversary of this class, they are making a donation to the Columbus Boys and Girls Club, and we really appreciate these graduates, many who have moved and left the city but still love Columbus and give back, and we really appreciate that. Also, on this Saturday, I mentioned last night that Columbus native Andre Rush, who has a new book out, will be back in the city this Saturday, and he will be speaking at the American Legion Post 69 at 1 p.m. and he will be signing the book, and we encourage people to come out and meet him. The name of the book is Call Me Chef, Damn It, and he speaks about poverty, racism, PTSD, and becoming the White House head chef. All of the proceeds will go to Contact Helpline, and thank you to the sponsors, Friendly City Books, United Way, and Contact Helpline, who are helping bring Mr. Rush back to Columbus. I want to read a little bit from the book. It says that he was born in a small town of Columbus, Mississippi. His father was a country farmer. He developed his love of fresh food from working on the farm and his love of cooking by helping his mom create family dinners. He was a gifted artist, football player, and a record-breaking track star whose skills earned him an Olympic tryout. But cooking was always his true passion. As a young man, he joined the U.S. Army Reserves, and during his military years, Rush won hundreds of medals for cooking, ice sculpting, and other related skills. His reputation as a cook led to a call from the Pentagon to try out for a job in the Joint Chiefs of Staff kitchen. He got the position, which led to his first cooking opportunity at the White House. While working at the Pentagon and the White House, Rush also developed a private business on the side, catering parties for Washington society. Chef was at the Pentagon the day the plane struck the building on September the 11th, 2001. He was part of the recovery effort, and as a result, later suffered PTSD symptoms, which instilled a passion for helping America's wounded warriors. Today, Chef has his hands in many pies, literally and figuratively. He has been a key advocate for the USO, Fisher House, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the American Legion, as well as an active supporter of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. He is currently developing a consumer-driven brand which will include edible goods, health, wellness, fitness, products, apparel, and more. He recently contracted with Gordon Ramsay's Studio Ramsay Production Company to host a new series which he has begun work on. And then this is somebody from Columbus. I think we're honored to have him back in the city, and I encourage all of our citizens to come out and meet him and get a copy of the book. I'm in the process of reading it. It's very interesting, and I would encourage our local citizens to come back and embrace this native son. Also, I announced last night that on Monday, July the 11th, the Columbus Light and Water and the Tennessee Valley Authority will present a check to the city for the Park and Recreation Department, which is the recipient of the TVA Community Care Fund grant in the amount of $15,000. It will be used to enhance Hank Aaron Park. Councilwoman Stewart, Greg Lewis, and I will be here to accept the check along with Dr. Verdell and representatives from TVA. I ran into some TVA folks during the MML over the last week, and they were very excited that Columbus had applied for the grant and had complimented Dr. Verdell on being aggressive in seeking these funds. They said that they have a lot of funds like that out there that they can help support communities, and that she had been very interested since she arrived in reaching out and finding those. So I again want to thank her. She and I both agree that we need to be securing funds for the area from all sources and not just the taxpayers. So again, thank you for that, and folks are welcome to come out on Monday to see that happen. We did have some board vacancies that we filled last night. We had some very good applicants for the Utility Commission Board. I appreciate everyone who had an interest in serving on that board. The council did vote to bring Stephanie Gale on as the new board member, and then Quinn Brislin was reappointed to the Adjustment and Appeals of Development Codes. Quinn is very active throughout the community and has been so for a long time. We appreciate, again, all who applied, and we encourage folks to continue to have an interest in participating on the boards. As I've said many, many times, communities that are thriving are not because of their elected officials, but it's because of a very active citizenry, and the more we have people involved, the better we will be. Now, one other thing that I didn't comment on last night that I've decided I want to make a comment on today, I know many of you have been watching, as I have, about the incident that happened in Highland Park on the 4th of July. I've been listening to the mayor of Highland Park talk quite often since the incident happened, and she talked about the handbook for mayors that is out there now that is sent to mayors after a mass shooting or something like this, and it just gives me a chill to even say it out loud. You know, we keep families and groups like this in our thoughts and prayers, and that is important, but also going to encourage citizens to pay attention to what's happening in neighborhoods like this far too often in our country. We actually had, we kept a close eye out at events over the weekend to make sure that incidents like this don't happen in our community. I can tell you that I have seen photographs and talked to law officers in our community, and the illegal guns that they are confiscating and walking upon, and those that are legal, is scary. And it makes their job even more difficult. We're learning that the young man who caused this carnage obviously did have mental health issues, and that there were signs of that. And we always start hearing more information about this when an incident like this happens. So I encourage citizens, if you know of anybody who has a mental illness and has made public statements where they can be investigated and have weapons like this, to please contact someone to let us know, because these types of occurrences don't always just happen somewhere else. And it's, I would also encourage citizens to not jump to sides when these discussions come up. You know, you hear on the far right and the far left, many, you know, just starts to become an argument that people are against the Second Amendment or they're not, you know. And I don't think that's the case. I think that the majority of the people are very interested in finding common sense gun laws that can help make events like this not happen. The one that has really struck me from this last event was 2 parents were killed and had a 2-year-old son or child, which is the exact age of my my grandson, and now this young child is going to be raised by somebody else besides his parents, and that is heartbreaking to me. And I hope that we can all come together and try to find all the right answers for issues like this. We can't continue to make these hot topic political buttons, which just divides the country and our citizens even more. And so I just felt compelled to mention something about that. I'm sure I will catch some grief for it, but that's all right, because I think it's an important topic that we should continue to discuss. Now, we will move on to some of the exciting events that happened last night at the City Council meeting. We were out by 10 till 6, 5 till 6, which I think was a record. I had many high fives from the council members for moving us through so quickly. I actually thought we had a executive session that we did not, so there will not be a report on executive session, even though I cleared the room to have one because we didn't have anything on the agenda. I was looking at an old copy. So a couple things, and I know we've had some questions about it already. One of the first things I want to discuss, and I'm going to bring Jim up, and Jeff can come up too as well, but we voted last night. The council voted 4-2 to give the Light and Water the request that they made from our ARPA funds so that they can seek a match gift for that to take care of some much needed sewage issues in the city that we've been facing for quite some time. Before we, you know, as y'all I'm sure have been following, we have been earmarking money for different areas of the city for these ARPA monies. I have been, and will continue to say, am very active in seeking the council to approve this money for watershed issues and flooding and the sewage issues where the state will match this money 1-to-1. I think it's important that we try to leverage money like that anytime that we have it, because these are long-term infrastructure issues that we're trying to deal with, which we normally don't have funds to use. And these are real issues that affect our citizens on a daily basis. It affects their livelihood. It affects you know, their day-to-day activities. And many times when we have flooding in this area, we have sewage that backs up in people's homes. And the money that we set aside last night will address that. The way we were able to get there was that the council had voted earlier this year to set aside $1.3 million for incentive pay. And we ended up using $750,000 for that, which leaves us $550K. Now, to be very clear, the employees received their checks last week. I understand that there was big lines at the bank that day because of it, and we were happy for our employees to get that. But that money will not be matched. So now that money is spent and it is gone, the $750K. But the $550 that was originally set aside to go with that for the 1.3 was not used. So that money has come back. They voted last night to put that money back in our ARPA funds, which will be used for this matching gift for Columbus Light and Water. We will give Columbus Light and Water the 1.135 that they requested, they will seek a match of that, and if they receive it, we'll be able to do the work that they've asked us for. If for some reason they don't get the match, I'm sure we will revisit the topic with Columbus Light and Water to see how to best use the money that was set aside. But it was set aside for the intent of them getting a match to be able to do the work. Jim, do you have any follow-up on that? Did I say anything that?
No, absolutely.
That was good?
Mayor,
Jeff?
while we're on it,
Okay.
can you answer the question of when the matching funds come back, like for the culvert project?
Yes,
Okay, you're expecting a 1-to-1 match to come back on the culvert project, correct?
correct.
Which is approximately $500,000 for both together?
408.
400,
408, 250.
okay, so you're hoping to get back 408,000, correct?
Half,
Get back half of that?
Yeah.
So 204,000.
right.
And that 200.
No, it would be the full amount, the 408? Full amount.
So dollar for dollar.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so the 408 that would come back, it's my fault, I'm confusing everything.
It's confusing me.
Okay, so the 408 that would come back.
Yeah, all the money that we set aside, so that would be that. The state, when we apply for it,
Right,
will match it 1-to-1.
okay.
So whatever we put in, they will match, correct?
Right.
And when you get that money back, you can use it for any legal general expense, correct?
I think we need to check the matching program to see if there's any rules.
That's right, because DEQ may have some requirements that it be
You
used
repeat what
on
they
water.
said, so I'm somebody here.
Yeah, they're gonna double check that. DEQ may have requirements. My thinking as mayor, even if it is legal to, once we get the match, to use it somewhere else, I will be for and will be encouraging the council to use this money in the areas that we're seeking the match for, which is watershed, flooding, and then for the Columbus Light and Water, obviously would be the sewage. So if it is stated somewhere that the match money that we get can be used in other places, I don't understand that, because we are seeking the money for those areas.
All right, and then the second question that came up, might be a Jim question, was you allocated basically the city's balance of ARPA funds last night, so it's all spent, correct?
Not all of it. Don't we still have a little bit in place of the ARPA money, Jim?
Okay, but you haven't touched at all the second half that will be coming in this summer, is that accurate to say?
Well, we've earmarked it,
The entire.
You've earmarked all of it? Okay.
yes.
All right, that question was submitted by.
Except for, we think there may be, 100?
Yeah, I think there may be about 100,000 that's unallocated, but we have to be careful because some of those are projects construction projects that could cost more than the original.
Okay.
Yeah, what he's saying is that we may have about 100,000 left in there, and it's important to have, a cushion like that in case these numbers fluctuate in some way because of cost. Yeah. Did everybody understand that? I kind of jumbled through that a little bit, but what I would like to make clear is that when we're asking for matching funds for watershed issues, the match is to be able to help to leverage the money that we've put in there from our ARPA money, not city money, but ARPA money. So we're trying to leverage that so we can do more. Because as y'all have seen in the various reports that we've had from Wagner and from Neil Schaefer, we have a lot of infrastructure cost that we're trying to, and it was the Speaker of the House was at MML, and he was continuing to encourage citizens, our elected officials throughout municipalities and counties to use that money, our ARPA money, for this. And I think the Lieutenant Governor continues. He was there last year and spoke on that issue and encouraged us. So for me, I think that's when you have this type of money that has come to you from the federal government, and in our case, from Treasury through the state of Mississippi, it's incumbent of us to try to maximize that money as much as we can, because as they have stated many times, this is transformational. It can be if used properly.
So Mayor, with the money that you all donated to Columbus Light and Water, would that handle all of their issues that they got in the city?
It won't handle all of them. They gave us.
Would you repeat the question?
He's asking if the money that we've given that we've set aside for Columbus Light and Water, if it would deal with all their issues. No, but it's working with some of their priorities, the ones that they think are at most. There's and they've got them listed in the city areas where it would help. 22nd Avenue Street South, the lift station rehabilitation, MLK lift station, Forest Main relocation, sewer main lining, older city areas, and then, so that's, and I'm sure Dr. Verdell can speak to that more in detail if y'all would like to talk to her about it. So, but these are, we're trying to help them with their top 3 priorities, which again, affects our citizens on a daily basis.
The money that went to Columbus Light and Water, that's not part of the 3 million, right?
No,
And is the money for this culvert repair, does that come out of the 3 million?
no. But it is all ARPA money. And we did learn, and I heard, while we were on the coast last week for sure, it sounds like that the money that we're using like that in advance of asking to match of our 3 million would be eligible for matching, because it's shovel ready. And they're smiling on shovel ready projects.
Which means you already have plans and things.
Yes. And again, let me remind people that that's an emergency situation for the city too. If that were to collapse, that area were to collapse, we could quickly lose water in the city, throughout the entire city. These issues are not to be taken lightly. And they're not inexpensive.
The culvert repair, could you talk about exactly where that is and what it's addressing?
It's close to Friendship Cemetery. It's in what block there? It's near Wilbur Cologne's home.
2nd Avenue North, south of Wilbur Cologne's house, near the back end of the Columbus Housing Authority.
Yes,
office.
yeah. And you can go by, several months ago, it was blocked off after a collapse. Part of the portion of it had collapsed after heavy rain, and that portion of the street was blocked off. You couldn't even drive through there. And so they were able to repair it to a condition where people could move through there again. But it's still a very serious issue. We were looking in at the pipes and stuff. Of course, I'm not an expert in that area, but you could tell that there was a need for work there to replace the issues that could cause us not could cut off all of our water supply if that were to collapse. Jeff looked at it, Jim went down, we had all the council members take a look at it, and talking to the folks from Light and Water, and from Neil Schaefer.
Is Public Works doing the work, or is Light
No.
and Water?
No, it's been bid out.
How much?
Yeah, we voted on that last night. It's Burns Dirt is doing part of the work, and who was the other? Yeah, material supplier. Yeah, so no, this job was above what we could handle through Public Works.
What ward is that?
1, Councilwoman Stewart. But as you can see, the issue affects all the wards. If it affects the entire city, if it were to collapse.
Do you have any idea when work's gonna get started?
As soon as possible, but the, what did we say in the,
The issue was the material supplier had not begun to create the culvert pipe yet, so.
yeah, so we're still few weeks out before the actual work happens. I'm sure Zach Foster or, and he's not here today, and nor is Kevin, but they could give you probably a more accurate time frame. But because it is in an emergency situation, we're asking them to move as quickly as possible.
Is this a stormwater or a wastewater culvert?
Storm. Any other questions? Comments?
I have some other questions, but not about that.
Okay, you want to ask me now or afterwards?
Can you talk a little bit about the tax abatement for the Stone Hotel?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The tax break for the Stone Hotel?
Yeah, in fact, you're set, Jeff, when you want to come up? That is similar to, very similar to the situation that we had with the old Fred's building, and we've had with several other buildings downtown in the past. This case was different in that they came to the council prior to beginning the work, where sometimes others have not. And so I'm going to let Jeff speak to that because he can articulate it much better than I can.
Thank you, Mayor. So the issue was whether to grant an ad valorem tax exemption on the new value added for the Stone Hotel. There are two different statutes. One is for Central Business District and another is for a historic district. This property is in both the Central Business District and the Historic District. So the approval will be 7 years under one and 3 years under the other for a total of 10 years. And the reason you do it instead of just giving them the 10 years under one code section is the county now has the ability, if the city grants it, to also grant an exemption for 7 years. Whether they will or not, we don't know, but that's why we did it 7 and 3.
It's on the property tax?
Yeah, so whatever it was assessed at before the construction began, they'll still be responsible for paying those taxes. The new value that they added, multi-million dollars worth of new value, will be exempt for 10 years.
And those are apartments or hotels?
Apartments upstairs, commercial downstairs.
Mr. LeJour is out of New Orleans and has worked with Chris on other projects around the state. He's done some work in the Gulf Coast area and others, and I think in the Delta. But I've met with Mr. LeJour on a couple occasions. In fact, he gave me a tour of what they've done with the apartments and what they've done with the downstairs area, which will be available for retail. And it's quite impressive. And he has interest in doing similar work in other buildings downtown. So, the council and I are eager to work with investors who are looking at bringing improvements to our downtown area or throughout the city. And he has a real interest in historic buildings. And I know has interest in other buildings in the downtown area. I've talked to him on more than one occasion about it. So we're trying to do policy that will help encourage folks to invest in the downtown area and throughout Columbus.
And just to make this clear, they're not paying taxes, they're only paying taxes on what it was before they was
Correct.
approved.
Yeah.
So they are still paying taxes.
They are paying taxes. What this does is that it, when people purchase properties like that need extensive renovations, which this did, and he was obviously investing quite a lot of money to bring this back. He was also doing it in a way to maintain the historical credibility of the building as well, which is not an easy thing to do. They will still continue to pay taxes on the assessed value, but not the assessed value after the improvements to the building until a 7 and a 3 year period for the two that Jeff mentioned, which we've done this for other buildings that we mentioned before in the downtown area. And this is something that they do in other communities to try to encourage people to invest in these older buildings. And then, these are business folks. They're not trying to do charitable work. They're trying to come in and help us revitalize the city. However, we know that we need to be fair in making sure that people are paying assessed values because that's part of the income that we run the city on. So it's important that we try to strike that balance in recruitment and then also retaining the level of money that we need to run the city. That's why it's always questioned heavily before we approve something like this. The other thing that we did last night that I haven't talked about was that, and it came, and I had to add it to the meeting, from the meeting, it wasn't on the agenda beforehand, where Mr. Brigham wanted to amend the budget, and there was 5 areas that we amended last night, in the fire department, in public works, in the cemetery, the community outreach, which was part of our Reclaiming Our Youth program, and then the Blight program. If anybody has any questions about any of those, I'll be happy to take questions.
It's a bookkeeping thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing was wrong. If you could explain a little bit. That was just-
Yeah, anytime that you do an amendment to your budget, you bring that before the council for approval.
Not-
We've done that. That's required by law.
Not doing that in the past was a problem.
Yes, if it was not done in the past, that would be a problem, yes. This is a way to make sure that, you know, everybody is aware of how we're using the money, and you try not to do a lot of amendments to your budget. Once you have your budget set, you really want to try to keep it there. That this can be something, if you're doing a lot of amendments to your budget throughout the year, that is something that you will be, they will bring up in your audit. That you've got, but in these cases, it was CARES fund money and money that's been set aside, the perpetual cemetery fund, and the blight elimination was from ARPA funds. And so these were things that we've been working on throughout the year, and we just needed to get the amendment to the budget. And Jim prepared a list, which was given to the council last night, and you should be able to see all these numbers on the website. I won't read them out, but if anybody has any questions, we have them here. Anything else? If not, we will adjourn the press conference, and I'm available for any questions afterwards, and then I'm going to spend some time with these nice